Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Good.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about dealing
You,
with and recovering from sexual shame post religion.
right. We're specifically talking about you recovering from that, right?
Oh geez. Yeah, I guess.
All right. So, wait, how do you want to do this? Are we going to go through like a history, or are we going to talk about the general concepts, or are we going to talk about your stories? Like, how do you want to? Yeah. Like, how do you want to structure this? Yeah, maybe tell everybody about yourself first. How about that? Let's start like that.
um oh Lord, I'm already turning bright red. so, um hi, I'm Susanna. If you guys don't know me, I'm the CEO of Atheist Republic, CEO and president. And yeah, so I oh my gosh, if there's ever a day where I'm going to have a hard time expressing myself freely, it's going to be today. Um, so
No
I,
pressure, by the way. Don't share anything.
I know.
Okay, okay.
But this is like good practice for me, right? Um, I don't even know where to begin. So like I identify as a bisexual woman. Um, and a running theme in my life is that there is nothing that religion messed up more for me than my relationship to sex and therefore my own body. Um, and it's been something that hasn't um, been easy for me to deal with in my life. But I've come a long ways, and I thought it'd be fun to talk about overcoming some of these obstacles with other people, because it's not easy. And yeah, it's been like the one of the biggest obstacles in my life. Um, yeah.
All right. So, can you like walk us through like some example stories, how it started, how it got worse, how it got better? Um, how did the Catholic Church influence it? How are you feeling once you left the Catholic Church? Um, you know, and how did you progress? Like, I don't know, where you want to start from childhood, or you want to start from when you were under, how did family came into play? How did your Antifa period affected it? Like, take us through all of these examples. But also, I'm looking at the live chat, and I don't know if people might have questions. Should I highlight the questions, or do you want you to pick the questions? Like, I don't want to highlight something that might trigger you into like, uh, do you want me to can I highlight
Mhm.
comments, or do you, okay, all
Yeah.
right, so go on. So I'm just gonna look at the live chat.
Well, Katie is asking a good question. That's a good place to start.
All
How
right, all
did
right.
Susanna realize her bisexuality and eventually come out? Um, oh my lord. So I grew up in a Catholic family. I have my crucifix on today, given to me at my baptism, you know, just in recognition. Um and I I grew up in a Catholic family. My parents converted to Catholicism, so I feel like they had a greater conviction than other Catholic families I knew, where it was just kind of like a cultural familial tradition. Um, and homosexuality was very discouraged. Not always very explicitly, although I do have very explicit memories of it being explicitly discouraged. And when I share that with my parents now, they're like, "What? That never happened." And I'm like, "I remember it exactly." I grew up in a very conservative household, not fundamentalist, conservative, extremely sex negative. And there was nothing that was as, there were few things in my familial unit that were more taboo than sexuality. Um, I I think I liked girls from a very early age. Developmental psychologists understand that our ideas of our own gender and ideas of our own sexuality are solidified very early on in life. Um, I can't remember the age for sexuality or sexual attraction. I do know that your gender identity is solidified around the age of 2 or 3. Um, and in terms of sexual attraction, it's probably, don't quote me on this, but around the ages 4 or 5, maybe pushing into 7. Um, I went to Catholic schools the vast majority of my education. And starting at the age of 12, I went to an all girls Catholic school. So I wasn't around any boys besides my own little brother for 4 years of my education through middle school. Oh, okay. We just got a super chat from Bashir, $5. Thank you. He's saying, "Love you guys. We love you." Um, so I didn't have access to boys from the age of 12 to 13 to 14 to 15. And I think that was good for me in a lot of ways, which I can get into possibly. But it also discouraged like any sort of like exploration or curiosity about the opposite sex because it just like wasn't in my environment. And I'm giving a very long answer. I realized that I was bisexual when I convinced my best friend to get a really short, like pixie style haircut. So she almost looked like a boy. And I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with it. I couldn't get enough of how she looked with that haircut. And then I eventually realized that the feelings I had for my best friend were like way more than my feelings towards a best friend. I was like, oh wait, no, I'm like in love with you. And she was my first kiss actually. Um
What age?
15. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And then that really scared me when I realized
why?
how deeply I felt about her. It scared me
Why did it scare you?
because I'm not supposed to want that. I'm not supposed to like it. I'm not supposed to feel that strongly. And so I self-sabotaged that relationship.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Did this your first kiss was inside a Catholic school?
No. With another student who was my best friend from that school.
Right, but not inside the Catholic school. No.
For your fantasy, unfortunately, no.
No, it would be ironic that the school that is
Yeah.
trying to, it would like it would be a big fu to the school who's trying to oppress your feelings. That's what I was.
Oh, but there
Yeah.
was lesbianism all up and down that school. Are you kidding me? Like I definitely saw girls making out on campus. Like, yeah,
Right.
classic, like all, yeah, uniforms, knee highs. That was my life for the majority of my education. Um, yeah, so that's how I realized I was bi. I was around 15. And then how I came out to my parents, well, I had like a Tumblr blog that I kept secret from everyone for a very long time. And on that blog, I would mainly um, post about the fan fiction that I was into at the time. Oh, thank you, Fatima. And all the fan fiction I was into was like slash fiction. Like for all the nerds out there, you know exactly what I'm saying. But basically, taking two characters, usually same-sex characters, and making a different non-canonical love story for them. Um, Interestingly enough, my favorite ones were always gay male stories, and I think I found that easier to digest because it was a little bit othered than female stories. Anyways, so, and I would also write about my own sexuality on that blog and discovering more about myself. And part of growing up in my very conservative household was a lot of information control. My parents would tightly control what media we consumed, which is why other conversations about controlling the media of what your children intake is a complicated subject for me, because I think in many ways the level to which it was in my life was a disservice to me. So they found this blog, and it was not good. And so that happened like when I was probably around the age of 15, and they confronted me about everything that I had written about, everything that I'd shared, everything that I was demonstrating interest in on this secret blog. And I got in really big trouble for it. And this happened continuously because
Wait, how bad? How bad was the blog?
I mean, like,
Bad.
not bad. It was
Not
just
that.
like, I mean, by Catholic standards, it was bad.
Okay.
You know, like being
It was,
curious about sex, being curious about sexuality.
right.
That information was not, there was no, that education was not allowed to me through any other means.
Mm,
So what am I going to do? I'm going to go look for it any way I can.
right.
And this is how I developed a almost a construction of a dual identity. I very deliberately compartmentalized parts of myself very deeply, um, public and familial parts of myself, to avoid punishment. And I learned from a very early age that honesty comes with punishment, because being honest about what I was curious about came with consequences. Um, so they found this blog, and so I was like, I openly talked about how I was bisexual like many times throughout this blog. I thought that they like knew what was up. I didn't formally come out until I was in my senior year of high school. And in my senior year of high school, this is a crazy story. um, I laugh when I'm uncomfortable because it's not funny. So I was visiting colleges with my mom. And so I was in a different city than where I grew up. And I was having dinner at a hotel with my mom. And my mom confronted me about a friendship I had with a younger girl in my class. I'm going to refer to this person as a girl. This person has since transitioned to being a man, but it's relevant to the story that this person was a girl to me at that time, right? No disrespect. But that's important to how this works. Mortard Skeptic is saying, how did they find it? They would monitor the IP addresses of my household. Yeah, they would monitor our IP internet history. They would block specific sites as consequences and punishment, restricting the information. So my mom confronted me about this friendship I had with someone who was 2 years my senior. I won't say this person's name. And she was concerned that I was going to have what she believed to be a corrupting influence on this person, because I had a friendship with a girl who was 1 year my senior in high school, who she thought was having a corrupting influence on me because this person would introduce me to information and education about sex. And that's a whole different story that had big consequences, but we could get into that later. So she was saying like I have concerns about this friendship you're having with this person who's like 2 years your junior. Um, and I was like, I would never do that to this person or be corrupting, be toxic. Like, what do you mean? And um, again, this is how I remember things. It could be different. And she's like, why? What do you mean? And I'm like, well, this person is my girlfriend. Like, yeah, like that's my girlfriend. Like, I'm not gonna hurt her. I'm not gonna do that to her. And my mom was like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's my girlfriend. Like, she made it publicly known that she had a crush on me, like, first, or I heard through the grapevine. I heard through the grapevine. And I was like, well, this person is beautiful, stunning. When we would go out together to get tea or whatever, people would go try to recruit her as a model just on the street. Like in high school. Stunning. I was like, yeah, like that's my girlfriend. And my mom was like, what? Blah blah blah. She acted like it was totally out of pocket or like hadn't like it didn't make sense to her. And I was like, internally, I was like, you guys found that blog of mine where I talk about this in explicit terms like 4 years ago. 4 years ago. And so it didn't make sense. And people who come from Catholic families know the depths of Catholic denial. And that was one of those situations like, and that's a running theme. A running theme is like this icy silence. This icy silence of like, we're not going to acknowledge amongst us what we all know to be true. Because like that's taboo, that's not okay. And if we actually acknowledge it, that makes it real. So we're just kind of gonna be in denial about it. Again, this is how I've come to understand things. I'm sure other people in my family would feel very differently. And that's okay. So I came out to my mom then, and she got upset. And this is around the same time that it was before. This is in 2014. So it was before there was federal marriage equality, or 2013, 2014. And the same-sex marriage was either just about to be legalized on the statewide level where I grew up, or had just been legalized on the statewide level of where I grew up. So we had same-sex marriage before the whole country did. And then so I came out, and then my mom turned this into a discussion of why do you guys have to take marriage from us? Armin, unmute yourself. I want to hear your reactions.
No, go on.
And
wait, how did that come into the discussion? Like you were considering it?
Because it was relevant politically in the immediate climate of what was going on. That was the big LGBT thing going on.
But did you like at that time consider like getting married to a girl? Is that what? Oh, okay.
Like, I'm like 17.
Right. But because you were that was on your mind, like that, because you consider yourself part of the LGBT community, so it became relevant to your, like it was something important to you because you were part of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, I didn't even bring it into the conversation. My mom did. What she said immediately was, right. Did you think about what this will do to our family?
Jeez.
And
wait, so to me it seems like, how much of the shame that you were you feeling any shame at this point, or was that all gone?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? I mean, about so many other things.
We'll get to that later, but Remember that so we could come back to that, okay? But was there shame mostly from, like, did you still consider yourself Catholic at this point?
No. Oh my God,
No.
I didn't believe in God since the age of like 12 or 13. But
Right.
that's what's interesting. I didn't believe, but I still treated myself as if I was going to hell.
How so? Why?
I I I think here's how I make the distinction. Around the age of 12, I made the decision not to follow God. That doesn't mean that I necessarily didn't believe.
Okay. So
See
you
what I
didn't.
mean?
So you were like you were rebelling against the God that you actually believed in.
I don't even know if I fully believed, but I made the decision not to follow, and then
Not to follow.
treated myself and conceptualized myself as bad and worthy of punishment until literally like December of this previous year.
Wow. So you had to deal with all that shame. Okay. So, but here's the thing: the shame that you are dealing with, did it mostly come from parental shame or Catholic shame? Which one? You know what I mean?
It's
Which
hard
one
for me
was
to
it?
draw the two apart.
Hmm. So were it? So the brainwashing and the shaming, it came from your parents mostly, not the church. Like, did you, other than your parents, were there any other religious authority figures that were responsible for making you feel, you know, vile and
Um,
immoral, is that the right word?
Worthy of utter contempt, disdain, condemnation.
Hmm.
Yeah. um, I think I I think a lot came from my education in Catholic schools. Because I was
Hmm.
talking to my dad about some of this stuff recently, or I was talking about Catholic guilt, and because my brother was there, and we were joking. We're like, "Oh yeah, if you have free time in the day, you have time to feel guilty. What are you talking about?" And my dad's like, "What? What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, Catholic guilt. What are you talking about?" Like, and he's like, "That's something you guys learn in Catholic school. I didn't teach you that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." um, so
So just for context, your parents are now a lot more chill with all of this stuff compared to
um,
before.
yes,
Yeah, so that's why they're talking like this to you. But they did
relatively, yeah.
relatively, like, still compared to the standards that we have, they're still, they have some red lines that
One
we
more than
don't.
the other.
Yeah, but relative to before, they're a lot better now.
Hmm.
And is that because of you? Because they learned to accept you?
I think it's because I got divorced.
Oh, because they got divorced. Okay.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
a no-no in the Catholic Church.
Oh, so they were shaming you until they did something shameful themselves.
That's speculation on my part.
Okay, okay. All right, go on, go on.
Um, yeah. So my mom told me, she was like, um, "Did you think about what this is going to do to our family?" And I was like, "What this is going to do to our family? Like, this changes nothing about our family except that you now have an additional piece of information about me. What this is going to do to our family? Like, what kind of collectivistic, mindset is that?" It's very about other, I don't know, it's very, very collectivistic. It's like, what does that have to do with how this is going to affect my family? I'm the same person. You just now know something new about me. And then this is where it gets crazy. So I had this like really intense discussion with my mom, and I was going to assume that she was just going to run and tell my dad. I assumed for years that she had told my dad after this. That was not the case. So I assumed that I had come out to both of my parents. That's actually not true. Because then that same night back home, my dad had a stroke. And so my mom had to fly home and go to the neurological ICU and take care of all this stuff. Um, Yeah. So that event totally overshadowed me coming out, what that means to our family, all that stuff. That paled in comparison. That just went into the box in the corner. Right? um yeah. So that's how I came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two questions here. I have my own questions, but let's answer these questions first.
Katie is saying, did your Catholic school ever shame you or strongly discourage for just being heterosexually attracted to other people instead of focusing on academics and moral behavior? Oh, are you saying like just quote unquote traditional sexuality like itself was shame and put below focusing on academics and moral behavior? Yeah. So even though we're at an all-girls school, like girls still want to do what they see as socially desirable and attractive. So we were heavily policed over our appearance. Uniform policy, strict uniform policy. That's why I think I have such an issue with showing off my legs, is because I have so many memories of people holding up cards to my knee and measuring the length of the skirt above my knee,
Whoa.
For years. 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches, y'all. And then girls were being too slutty, so they had to change it. Because
Only
girls would roll up their skirts to make them shorter. And yeah.
and only until like 2 weeks ago you were not comfortable with wearing short skirts and putting it online, and you're still having to deal with the shame of that, and you're like, so this is like, yeah, so this is way after, years after leaving all of that behind, it's still affecting you.
Yeah, I'm a full-grown adult.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very, when you're just taught that being sexually desirable is so shameful, it's really hard to do things to make yourself feel attractive, for personally speaking.
So, oh wait, here, you want to answer?
Oh, I asked
this?
that because that was something do they
No,
actively
this.
teach to be guilty or shameful in Catholic school? Did they touch on sexuality, or was it in a general atmosphere of being sinful? I mean, sinfulness, just, yeah, it's a lot of sinfulness. Did they actively teach being shameful? I mean, so the way that I internalized shame the most was through silence. So that's how I that's what's difficult to talk about influences, right? What influenced me more? Parent, family, Catholicism, blah blah blah. Because what you notice as a child is what cannot be touched. What you notice is what makes the adults in your environment tense. What you notice is what they refuse to talk about. What you notice is what they go turn off the radio, go fast forward through this, go switch the channel. So you internalize the shame because you're noticing that this is not even supposed to be had like in conversation. Like this cannot even be in our environment. And I mean, to a certain extent, that might just be adults not wanting to expose children to certain stuff, right? However, what I think that's actually doing a disservice to children. I think you should explain, because it was like a shutting off with no explaining. So I didn't understand why that was taboo. I didn't understand why that was forbidden. It just was. It just was, and you don't touch it. And so hence my eternal fascination with the taboo. Like, you don't want me to touch that? I'm going to go figure out exactly why that is so dark and forbidden.
Right. There were some other things that you mentioned that were source of shame. that you found out? That do you want to touch? Do you want to get into that? Do you want to mention that? Like other things? Oh,
Are you talking about what I think you're talking about?
yeah. I mean, if you're okay, if you want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about
I think that might have to be a part two.
it. Hey, subscribe for part two. Then. Do you do you want to mention um, the biblical stories that you illustrate, the illustrations that you found in biblical stories, and how that affected you as a child? No, you want to talk about that? Is maybe part two?
I think that's part two.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a lot of my questions then. Yeah, because that's the
Maybe,
thing.
maybe
When
towards the end of this hour.
like, maybe end of this hour? Maybe. Okay, because this is my question. I'm not gonna say the part. I said, when did you find out that you're into blank? That's my question. So I'm not asking it right now because I don't know if you want to talk about that. And then I say, how did that make you feel? When did you decide to become open about that? So I'm not mentioning what that is.
I'm not really.
And then I ask also about the stories that the stories that it seems to be like biblical stories made you realize that you're into that. So there's the Bible that. So yeah, so not talking about what that is. Um, so that's a lot. So okay, so maybe we'll get into that by the end of this hour. Maybe not, right? So here's another question: Do you still? How much do you still deal with shame these days? And how are you today compared to a year ago?
Oh my God, I'm so much better than a year ago. I'm so
Hmm.
much better than a year ago. Oh my God. I remember literally last October, let me pull it up. I think it was like literally to the date, a year ago. I had like a breakdown over how broken I felt. So how much shame do I deal with now? It comes and it goes. I'm doing a lot better. I have a lot more capacity to acknowledge it for what it is and like throw it away as not useful. So that's where my cognitive behavioral therapy comes in. You have to be able to name it, label it, identify the root of it, and then be like, this is not serving me. This is maladaptive. I need to throw this away. Um, so I'm a lot better at like naming what's going on, and I have more tools and more people in my life who help talk to me about it. Oh, thank you for the love. Um, so having friends like you, Armin, has helped me almost more than the therapist I've been seeing for like 10 years. Straight up.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and it helps to, yeah, have people who challenge that in your life. Um, I'm yeah. So, how bad was it? I remember like sitting in my bed and my best friend was telling me about how um she went to like a lingerie sex party basically. And I was sobbing because I didn't understand why I was so broken that I could never do something like that because of how severely it would damage my sense of self. I was like, why is this such a big deal to me? Why do other people get to go do something like that and It doesn't affect them. It doesn't make them despise themselves. It doesn't make them viscerally hate themselves for not even like queer sexual desire, just sexual desire, period. Period. Why do other people get to be so free? It's not a big deal. They're not burdened by this. They're not, I mean, this utter sense of burdensomeness cannot be overstated. I just felt broken and damaged beyond repair. I was like, it's not fair that this was done to me in a way. Like, why? And I couldn't conceptualize how to move past it. And being my age, I'm like, it isn't supposed to be this way. And I mean, I don't even think there are like words for like the level of self-loathing. And it's interesting because that moment that I had led me to the conclusion. I was like, I need to do something to get a hold of this. Like, I can't move forward in my life like this. And so I started reading books about indoctrination, actually. Because I needed to understand how I was influenced in this way to feel this way about myself, because that doesn't happen naturally, right? And so I started reading this book called Combating Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan, who is a cult survivor himself and a cult expert and a licensed mental health counselor. So I started originally reading it to help understand my experience with Catholicism and the level of shame that I internalized, and almost like near sexual phobia. And then along the way, I discovered other influences that I had undertaken. And so, in a roundabout way, my sexual shame led me to realize that I was part of the far left and just had various destructive influences in my life.
Wait. So so trying to discover how your Catholic upbringing influenced your sexual shame made you leave the Antifa crowd, because while trying to discover how you were being brainwashed by the Catholic Church made you realize that you're also being brainwashed by Antifa. All right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That is
wait,
interesting. Okay.
let me find it just a second, because that's why I won't find the book right now. But the theme of the book is that if the public is educated to identify destructive influences, you can identify destructive influences in a plethora of places, so many places. And another running theme is that critical thought is let in through the back door. So I had entered this trying to look at one thing critically, and along the way, once I had learned the tools to identify destructive influence, I suddenly could not help but notice the similarities of something else in my life. Just like, you're like, oh. Yeah, but I think, like, I can't even, it really helps to have friends who were also raised in a religious environment to talk to you about these things, because like my friends who were raised without, is this the real Muhammad hijab in the comments?
I don't think so. I don't know. Somebody check for us and tell.
It's,
Should I highlight it? Should I highlight the comment?
yes,
No,
I want to
right?
know if this is the real Muhammad hijab.
No.
Will the real Muhammad hijab please stand up?
Right.
um
Right. Okay.
because he also is in actually woo. So um I it helps to have friends who are also really raised in highly controlling environments or religious environments, because a lot of my friends who were raised without religion just like couldn't relate. I would try to talk to them about like what I was holding within myself, and they'd be like, what, maybe not in so many words, definitely not in so many words, but the way it felt reflected back to me, and probably because it was such a vulnerable spot for me, this isn't an accurate representation of what they were saying, but the way it felt back to me was they're like, what's wrong with you? I don't get it. Like, why is it such a big deal? Like, just do it. Like, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. If I just go do it, like, I will hate myself. So um I was basically I was a voluntary celibate for like years.
Why? Why? How so? Why?
Because I couldn't even um let myself go there for fear of triggering my own depth of self-loathing.
So, how many years are we talking?
Um I guess maybe not years, but like almost full years.
Mm.
Um yeah.
So, did you also? So, is it fair to say like your sex drive was an important part of your life? Is that, and you felt guilty about that? How important that is in your life?
I mean, like everyone's sex drive is important. I don't
Right,
understand.
but you couldn't admit it.
Yeah. I think
Right.
what was more important in my life was my inability to even cognitively approach that.
Yeah, but this is something you know now. But at that time, did you, like, correct me if I'm wrong? At that time, did you think like you are there's something uniquely wrong with you, because it seemed like that you think you felt more vile than other people because of how much you've thought that there's something inherently wrong with you, because you really badly want things that shouldn't be a big part of your life. It shouldn't be such a priority in your life. Is that fair or is that not fair?
Um, to an extent, I more
I'm
felt
just projecting what I went through, and to see if you had if
oh,
to see if you had the same experience or not.
um, it's more like I felt vile because I couldn't handle this
Mm,
subject and part of my life.
right. Because
And then
as a teen,
I also felt vile for what I was interested in. Definitely. Definitely.
but yeah, but as a teenager, I thought that other people could not want these things that I want as bad as I wanted. Like there must be something
Mm.
uniquely wrong with me. Like I must be
Oh,
I
and
must be
that,
effed.
yes. Now, yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
I feel like I must be effed up in the head or something that I'm discussing while that I really need God and religion to purify me, because I am so, you know, everything about my feelings is shameful.
I mean, I still feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, but because there's no communication with other people,
Hmm.
you I feel like I feel like most people are not this disgusting as I am. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, I
Right.
relate really hard.
Mm. Um.
Oh my God, I
So,
was made to feel disgusting so many times throughout my adolescence. I remember
and okay,
being sat, yeah.
And yeah, go on. Sorry, go on.
Um, just having this flashback to this memory of, um, like I said before, there was nothing in, there were few things in my life that I was punished for more than sex. The only thing that would fall beneath that would be like marijuana. Um, and I have so many memories of being made to have a talk with my parents, and I, God, would be made to sit down with them, usually at the dinner table, and we'd have a discussion about typically something they found on my computer. And I would be made to confess, basically. Um, and I remember being made to sit down with them at, I was 17. I had just lost my virginity at a summer camp. And yeah, and on the different side of the world. And then I came home, and I can't remember why my parents said this to me, but they sat me down and they were started talking about, Susanna, it's really easy for a girl your age in high school to get a reputation. And I was like, literally, I went to a really small high school. Really small high school. Like my graduating class was less than 100 people. It's like no one in my environment will touch me. I hardly have any friends. Like no one's interested in me. I feel disgusting. I haven't kissed a single person at my own high school. Even the people I dated. And you want to talk to me about my reputation? I remember when they said that, just laughing in their face. Laughing in their face and feeling myself just rescind deeper inside of my own psyche. Because I was like, what are you even talking about? They they hate me here. Like, yeah, so just a lot of really negative messaging about even attracting attention. Which I wasn't. If anything, I was just attracting attention because I was a freaking weirdo. I was a weirdo. I mean, still am. Like, and it's pretty funny because then after I graduated and then came back from college, I think a lot of my guy friends realized that they missed a golden opportunity. But yeah, it's tough. Wait, let me find something I wrote when I was 20. Just a sec.
Is that your journal? I think that's her journal. Um. Oh, there we go. You came back fast.
Um,
Is that? I thought I'm gonna have to speak to that.
not
Before you
exactly.
open, that's your journal. Is that your journal? Okay. All right. Okay. I'll ask my question later. But
Wait,
go on.
shoot, where
What
did
is
I put
this?
it? Oh, here it is.
Let me see.
So I've made a series of like little zines and mini publications, um, which I only released one of them officially. No, I've released two of them. So, like, here's the first edition called Bloody Kisses. And they're usually about kind of, it's like artwork that helps me work through what I'm going through. And well, I can't even show the pictures of this because it's not safe for work. But one of them is titled Bloody Kisses #2 Confessionals. This is an executioner's hood. Because I felt so worthy of contempt, shame, disgust, that I felt like if I confessed what I felt about things, I'd be worthy of execution. Like, yeah, no, people are like, Susanna, what do you mean you have hangups? I'm like, you want to talk about hangups? Yeah, I feel like I should read a little bit of it because I feel like people don't understand like how deep this cuts for people who struggle with stuff like this. And I know there are people watching who struggle like to the bone, to the white meat with this. And people, they don't understand. Yeah, and it, God, I mean, I wrote this when I was 20, and it's just heartbreaking, you know, what I felt about myself, you know. Oh my, this is a good question actually. Atheist Republic, Susanna, did your parents ever make marriage a priority for you once you've reached adulthood? Certainly. I mean, of course, I was taught that sex is only for marriage. You're supposed to save yourself for marriage. That sex is procreative. That's what God's perfect plan is. That abortion is immoral. It's wrong. They didn't have as much of a contraceptive hang up because I think they were just like pragmatic. But the Catholic Church teaches that contraception inherently is mankind's meddling in God's perfection. And
You want to read what you wrote in there? And also, maybe, is it possible to describe what the images in there are without showing it? Be careful with YouTube, though.
Well, not with number 1. Because that's not
Okay.
really as relevant. You've seen that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is...
No pressure, by the way. You don't have to read it.
Well, I'll read what I think is relevant. Because it's just so clear how much religious influence it's screaming off the page. Maybe just to me. The Catholicism is screaming off the page.
And what? How many years ago was this?
4, almost 5 years ago.
Right. And how old are you now?
I'm almost 25.
All right. Go on.
My birthday is soon. I know I need to add that to your calendar because you're not going to remember. Yeah, so if there are any other ex-Catholics out there, comment below if this brings up anything for you. Because it's just, oh my God. I feel driven to make these confessions. Simply in my mind, these thoughts are too burdensome. Weight, so much weight. Worry, excessive worry. The confessional. Oh, I'm getting a flashback right now. Perhaps if I expose myself for the fraud, the mediocre fool, the pervert that I am, perhaps this shame will be lifted, plagued, compelled to confess like the recovering ex-Catholic I am. Perhaps my confessions will be cause for my execution. They see me and they know. They recognize you from the mistake that you made. The time that you felt your anxiety showed through your eyes the whole time. The time you didn't make eye contact the right way. Effing fool. You should have known better. You should have known not to get your hopes up. Confessions that feel like self-flagellation. confess, to compulse to reveal my deviant behavior. Please cleanse me, wash away this burden of shame and self-loathing. Loathing because I desire, loathing because I seek reciprocated love and find myself hurt and alone instead. What a effing fool I am. I have so much love to give. I look for it in any outlet to express it. Effing fool, effing slut, shame. I want to give of myself. I have these moments of tenderness possible within me, and they are sacraments. Um, That's too personal. um, Whore, lonely fool, drunk in the crowd. Look at you in front of everyone, acting a fool. Emotions so obvious, the whole room must know where my heart lies. And again, I'm here alone, sobering up and so sad. Because I know the casual sex would be devastating to my shame/anxiety complex as well as my sense of self. I must search for intimacy and genuine appreciation elsewhere. Why do I scare others so much? Why is my desire to be tender drive him away? Is it because it feels too good? Is it because you might like it? Or no, is it scary how much you might like it? And then I had a picture of, my love is a sacrament. I do not take affection for granted. I participate fully in the visible rite of love each time it is presented to me, consciously honoring the intrinsic holiness that resides within my partner. Let me cherish you. And then I have a very spiteful letter that I wrote. And I also had in here several excerpts of from my psychology textbooks that explain the psychological dynamics of shame and social anxiety. So one of them is, this is from Raising a Moral Child. This is one of my textbooks. Shame is the feeling that I am a bad person, whereas guilt is the feeling that I have done a bad thing. Shame is a negative judgment about the core self, which is devastating. Shame makes the child feel small and worthless, and they respond either by lashing out at the target or the situation altogether. In contrast, guilt is a negative judgment upon an action, which can be repaired by good behavior. Basically, it goes into how we want our children to care about others. If we want our children to care about others, we need to teach them to feel guilt rather than shame when they misbehave. In a review of research upon emotions and moral development, the psychologist Nancy Eisenberg suggests that shame emerges when parents expect anger, withdraw their love, or try to assert their power through threat of punishment. Children may begin to believe that they are bad people. So a lot of what I studied in my major helped me understand psychologically the patterns that had affected me, because it was more than just like, oh, this behavior is bad. It's like, I'm bad. And I still sometimes feel that way, but not as often.
How is it that you still feel that? Like, how is it possible that after getting rid of all that religious shame and knowing that it doesn't make any sense, how is it possible that it's still affecting you? Especially, especially like a year before ago when you were not Catholic, right? When you were completely, you knew that these ideas are stupid and make no sense, right? You knew that shaming was unjustified, right? But even with that knowledge, you still felt shame and you still felt hatred towards yourself. Is that fair to
Mm-hmm.
say? For having these feelings, how is that possible?
I don't know. It just is. Like, it's not rational. It's not rational. It's not, it's just what I've internalized throughout my entire life, made to um, what I've been holding within myself since I was like 7 or 8 years old. Um, oh, should I read this comment? Um, Afshin is saying, I get it. I still feel guilty sometimes because I had gay sex 17 years ago. I have to remind myself that it's remnants of Islamic brainwashing quite often. It's true. So like, how's it possible? Like, rationally, I and that's the thing, even a year ago when I was having a full-blown breakdown, um I knew it wasn't rational. I've been able to recognize it as irrational for years, but I still feel that way. I just do. And so I just have to challenge myself, you know. I have to um be in relationship with people who challenge me to question that. People who help me appropriately label it as what it is. Um, I have an amazing therapist. I highly suggest therapy to everyone. Specifically a therapist that has a background in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's extremely important, evidence-based. And yeah, my therapist has the funniest advice. I love her. I love her so much. I don't even know if I can say what what advice she gives me on air.
Wait, can you, like, you can't because of what? Because of YouTube restrictions,
Um,
or because of?
not YouTube restrictions. Just it might shock people.
Let them be shocked. It's fine. If that's your only concern, it's fine. Go on.
um, oh my god, no. So in this past year, it literally got to the point where my therapist mandated that I go date people. She's like, Susanna, this is your homework. This is non-negotiable. Like, you're not going to work through these problems you have unless you go practice.
So what's the shocking advice? That wasn't shocking.
Well, I mean, following that, she said, don't call me back until you've been penetrated.
Okay. I like your therapist. I like her.
She's
That's
so
good.
funny. She's a Christian.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Wait.
and so people are probably like, "Oh my god, that's so inappropriate for your therapist to say blah blah blah." Yeah, right. Like, and I had a session with her like yesterday. And I was reminded her of that, and she's like, "Yeah." Afterwards, I was like, "Oof, don't report me to the board." And I was like, because I've literally been seeing her on and off since I was 15. She's the most nurturing figure in my life. She's my role model. I model myself after her literally since I was an adolescent. So she knows me like better than most people in my life. Which brings me to my point of if I'm ever mean to Armin on stream, it's because I am mad at him that he's gotten secrets out of me that not even my therapist of 10 years knows. Or I'm mad at myself for letting myself tell him.
Yeah, I've never pressured you.
No,
Did I?
no.
I always
I'm
make it
salty
clear.
about it. I'm mad at myself. I'm acting out. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I mean, yeah, she's given me other advice, which is really good too.
It was very interesting how when you were reading that note, how Catholic, like you wrote that as an ex-Catholic, and it was very Catholic.
Screaming off the page.
Yeah, I remember leaving Islam when I left Islam. Like, having to deal with all of that guilt and shame, and the version of the shame I was dealing with as an ex-Muslim, anti-Islam atheist, even though with all of that, like, I was very aggressively anti-Islam. I knew it was like, this is obviously crazy. All of it is crazy. And yet the theme of my guilt towards the feeling I had sometimes, again, I felt it much less than you based on what I know about you. Like I managed to like get rid of it quite fast, but even the amount, even what it was left, it had an Islamic theme to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I could feel the Islamic guilt for a couple of years um, after I left Islam. I still sometimes doubt, like, is this disgust? Is this, should I be ashamed of this? Like sometimes it comes back a little bit, right? But then I know how unreasonable it is, because every time I feel it coming back, the shame, I taste Islam in my mouth somehow. You know what I mean? I know this is, I smell Islam, right? It's not just the shame of shame itself. Like that religious theme and the Islamic tone comes with it. So I know this is nonsense because it's Islam. You know what I mean? So that helps me recognize how unreasonable this is, because it comes with an Islamic flavor every time I get reminded of it.
You know what's funny?
What?
When you were saying that, I was tasting the Eucharist and the wine in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think the reason why it's so Catholic, it's because that's just my frame of reference, right? That's my frame of reference. That's the structure I've known. That's the script that I was given. That's the language that I have. It's the visual iconography, the visual language that I have. I mean, I have Catholicism tattooed on me, like.
Sure.
Well, oh, you can't see it very well. Shoot. God. Yeah, this is a Sacred Heart. It's one of the things. I have other Catholic stuff I want to get tattooed on me too. Still,
you want them tattooed on you?
I'm obsessed with Catholic art. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's everything I've ever known. Yeah.
When you were part of Antifa and all of that, did they not at least help you with getting, because they're at least, I mean, as nonsensical their views are, at least they're not into sex shaming, right?
Well, I mean, it's not exactly appropriately labeled as Antifa. I would more file it under my critical diversity studies days. So I actually received honors for my writing in critical gender and sexuality studies.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, like I was awarded for exemplary writing for my entire senior class, my graduating class. And then it's people, you don't know what you're talking about, girl. My professors told me that this was better than the stuff that their like graduate students wrote. Okay.
Wow.
So it was more influenced by that, right? Critical theory. The response to that was just to deconstruct everything, right? My response to that was to partially as a way of trying to deny the existence of my sexual shame, I ran away from my existence as an attractive woman itself. So that's when I started to identify as genderqueer and trans for a while. And I dressed very differently. I dressed very masculinely. I dressed primarily in extremely baggy clothing to completely hide the shape of my body, completely hide how I looked, completely. I think it was a fearful thing. It was a protective thing. I didn't want that attention. I was scared of that attention deeply. So
were you scared of enjoying that attention?
Yes.
Hmm. So you were hiding whatever made you sexy as a way to not get the attention that you were afraid of enjoying.
Because
Is that
that
fair?
is disgusting and shameful.
So is it fair to say that you were not trans? It was not gender dysphoria that you were feeling. You were using gender dysphoria as an excuse to hide your sexuality.
Yes.
Hmm. Wow, that's some deep stuff. Right
I
there.
got a twisted psyche.
I mean, that's what religion does to you, right?
Yeah, no, that's how deep it went. It went
Hmm.
so deep. I was so ashamed of my sexuality and desire as a woman. I didn't believe I was a woman. Like,
How did
bro.
hmm.
Like, damn.
So if somebody complimented you back then and considered you to be sexy, how would that make you feel? Like you would like it and you hate yourself for liking it?
Um, unless it was very specific people that I was interested in, yeah.
Hmm. And how do you deal with that now if somebody compliments you and thinks that you're sexy?
I recognize it as objectively true. Round of applause. That's what I was talking to my therapist about the other day, about how far I've come in that, and
Mm.
realizing how I'm incredible. Like, oh my god. And it's so funny because when I talk, thank you, Fatima. Um, when I talk to people about it in my sexual shame, they think it comes from a place of insecurity. They're like, Susanna, what are you talking about? You're beautiful, you're cute, you're sexy, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I know I'm cute and sexy. I'm not just cute and sexy. I'm intoxicating. Okay. And then I said that to my therapist, and she's like, "No, Susanna, you're devastating." And I'm like, "You're right."
That's great. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
So things are looking up. I've made a lot of progress, and I hope
This
this helps other people recognize that, like, you don't have to be stuck in this. You don't have to be
right.
stuck in this. I sometimes have thank you.
Mhm.
I sometimes have days where I have like a little mini shame spiral. Like I had a shame spiral about 2 weeks,
Mm.
2 weeks ago, and Armin was very kind and he talked me through it, and it helped me so much.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
One thing that you mentioned is how jealous you are of people that never had to deal with religion,
Yes. People have no idea.
right?
No idea.
This is a comment that I think highlights that.
Tijuana M says, or Tihana, Tijuana.
Tijuana.
Tijuana. I am very thankful that I grew up in a non-religious and an irreligious household. You two are so incredibly strong. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was expressing this to you the other day.
Hmm.
I was like, I cannot conceptualize not carrying this burden. Like, people who grew up without this are so, so lucky.
Hmm.
At the same time, I wouldn't be who I am, though, right?
Hmm.
Um, but the idea of not carrying this, not having this that stunted me, to use my therapist's words, um, it's almost it's inconceivable to me.
Hmm.
Uh, so like one of my relationships right now really does help me, challenge me to grow far beyond how I was stunted, and it's amazing.
Um. Yeah. I sometimes imagine if it's possible to live in a world where the desire for sex is as shameful or looked down upon as our
Eating.
desire for food. Yeah, you know this, right? And I always like imagine a scenario where like in an alternative universe where people were so open about what they're into sexually and they were not hiding it and it wasn't something private. But if you were eating food publicly, people were like, "Oh my god! Like, hi, Dad! Like, how could their children here? Like, they watch you eating? Like, this is disgusting." And if you see a movie where people are enjoying a steak, then it would be like R-rated. Like that desire would be considered shameful and something to be kept private, and it has to be only enjoyed in certain ways. And there are right ways of doing it and wrong ways of doing it, right? And I always wonder, like, what's the difference between that desire and this desire? Like, they're just desires, right?
Mhm.
So I don't understand why is one of them is being seen as taboo and the other one not. I mean, the only thing that I should be concerned with in both is with how to do it healthy and how to do it in a way that doesn't damage your body. That's the only
Mhm.
concern that we should have with both of them, right? And when it comes to like, not for example giving, not eating too much sugary stuff, right? Like not about there's nothing shameful. Yeah, so that's the only thing we should be concerned about. What is going to damage you and what's not going to damage you. Anything else is irrelevant. Anyways, I think we should leave the part 2, that stuff, because we already went over an hour. So we're not going to get into that thing that you're into that we're not going to reveal today. That's actually good. That's a good teaser, because then we have to subscribe. I don't even have to.
Oh.
I don't even have to yell at you. I'm not even going to yell at you. Okay. Wait, how many subscribers do we have? We have
Almost 25K.
only almost 25K. So let's have a subscriber goal before we. Is that okay? Like, can we do that? Can we have a
We don't know how long it's going to take before it comes.
Yeah, but how about this? When we hit 30,000 subscribers, we're gonna talk. We're gonna make an episode on that. 30,000. Is that fair?
That'll be months from now, or maybe even like.
They could do it faster. Yeah. Well, do you subscribe? We're gonna get there faster, right?
I think this would make a better series to come out sooner, though, because I
Sooner.
enjoyed this. This wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
Okay. For sake of Susanna, 26,000 subscribers, or earlier. You want earlier?
Whatever.
Okay, fine. 25. How about that? 25,000 subscribers. Like that's just 200 more subscribers, right? Is that good? 25,000.
Whatever you say.
You just want to tell everyone everything. That's what you want to do. Do it at 25. That's what yeah. So this is something that this is something that you haven't told publicly to anyone before, right? Like this is a secret right now. Your bisexuality is not secret, but this is a secret. But this one is a secret for it, right?
I feel like I've teased it. I don't know.
You think you've teased it? Oh wow!
Oh, Mateo sent us 10 Australian dollars. Thank you, Mateo. He's saying, "Love my AR family. We love you." And you're always very open to criticism, Mateo. We appreciate that.
Yes, you are. Every time he said something and I said Mateo's wrong, he came out and like, you're right. Sometimes, by the way, Mateo, sometimes I'm wrong. Like, don't accept all my criticisms, right? By the way, Susanna, here's the thing. We're not promising this, okay? So let's be 100% clear. If Susanna goes and thinks that actually I don't want to share this, okay? This is not a promise we're making to you guys, okay? She has every right to be like, I changed my mind, okay? This is not a promise, okay? This is just potentially, okay? So she says she's right now, she says that she's open to sharing this, but all of a sudden if she changes her mind and she's like, actually, I'm not comfortable with making this public, then we might go back on our word, okay? So do not consider this a promise, okay?
Aww.
I just want to make,
This is why I'm your number one simp.
Yes. Okay, guys, I don't need any other simps, okay? I have Susanna is my simp. So wait, is this a pity simping or just a real simping?
Oh, come on.
It's real simping. Great.
Now you're just fishing. You're fishing, Armin. You know I'm the 5-star general of your simp army.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I know. Um, all right. Thank you for everybody, guys. Again, get us to maybe potentially to 25,000 subscribers so that we get that. By the way, but Susanna, this is helping you as well, right? This is not just like I just want to make sure that our audience is getting something out of this, right? So that they feel like if other people are dealing with struggling with shame, struggling with guilt, like I think like you sharing this, I think a lot of people see like, oh my god, I like this is relatable. I had to deal with this as well, and they feel like there's nothing very unique about the shame and the guilt that they're feeling with. So if more people are open about this, more people can go through this struggle, knowing that there are other people going through it exactly like them. So I really think this is very helpful. So thank you so much for sharing this. I really think like you being open about it is going to help a lot of other people. But I'm also hoping that's the other way around as well. I'm hoping that you being open about it and the audience listening to you and encouraging you and telling you that, that you're right, that everything you're feeling they felt as well, and and to encourage you to be more open, that there's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm hoping that that's also helping you as well.
Yeah,
Is it?
well, if you enjoyed this, let us know in the
Oh
comments
yeah.
below.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping also that there will also be negative comments. People will always be rude, discussing, trying to put you down. I'm just hoping that at some point we learn to become numb to that, right? Like that they just focus on the people who are being positive and the people who are trying to, because one thing I notice is that when you're dealing with a lot of shame and guilt with regards to sexual desires, and then at some point you leave that behind and you think that you have completely um you wash your hands off of it and you don't have to deal with it and that you have overcome it. There are
Mhm.
some people that manage to all of a sudden trigger something
Correct.
in you and make you feel guilty and make you go all the way back and think that maybe there was something to that guilt. Maybe it was justified. Maybe it was justified shame. Maybe there's the right way to do these things and I'm the wrong, and my desires are wrong in some way, right? So I think seeing those people leave those comments and trying to shame you back into that position has to be, we have to put that next to all the people that are telling you no, they're wrong and you're okay and it's fine, right?
Mhm.
So unfortunately, being open about this, it doesn't just invite the people that are encouraging you, but also invites the people that want to make you feel ashamed again, and we have to learn how to deal with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
want
well,
to
they
say?
can't tell me anything worse than I already think about myself, so.
Yeah, but it's not about that. I know that you are harder on yourself than anyone else is, but they validate that,
Mhm.
right? That's what they do. That you feel disgusted of yourself. You feel, but I'm not sure if you feel like that. But I'm saying this is what my experience is, that you feel disgusted and you are feeling more ashamed than they are, but than whatever they say. But what this does is that they come and say, "You those feelings that you're feeling is correct," and they and that So that's what I'm trying to say, that we shouldn't let them do that.
This is
What?
why I need Jesus.
Yeah.
This is why we need Islam.
Right. Yeah. Like maybe Islam had a point here. We're going
That
to
was my
what?
reaction to watching Cuties.
Right, right, yeah. Maybe we're going too far, like something like that.
Watching
Yeah.
Cuties, I was like, Catholicism was right.
No, so this is the problem when we don't introduce where the red lines are supposed to be, right? Just like, so for example, if religion says, do not eat pork and this and this and that, and we like, those are random arbitrary lines that doesn't, it's not based on reason, right? But then that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have red lines,
Yeah.
right? We have red lines based on evidence. We say like, do not eat too much sugary food, right? Sugar is bad for you, right? So just because we're coming out and telling people that the red lines introduced by religion do not make any sense, and if you feel like the urge to go across those red lines, you shouldn't feel guilty. That doesn't mean when it comes to morality around sex, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have red lines.
Yeah.
There are red lines that we need to have, that should be based on avoiding harm, and it should be based on evidence, right? But then when we cross those when some people cross those red lines that are actually harmful,
Mm-hmm.
then religious people try to take advantage of that and be like, see, you guys this is harmful, and that's why you need Jesus, or that's why you need Islam. And you're like, no, we don't we don't need you guys. We have better ways to recognize why these red lines shouldn't have
Wait,
been
I did it
crossed.
wrong.
Wait, what is that? I don't know what you're doing.
You have to. It's part of the mass. You cross your fingers. You make a cross with your fingers, and it's in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Like this?
Yeah, you made a little cross with your fingers.
Wait, so it's a cross within a cross? So this is a cross, and this is also
you're
a
making
cross.
a cross with your hands, and you're crossing your forehead. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
This is like inception level crossing.
Yeah.
Because your hand's in a cross, and you're doing a cross here, and then you're doing a cross here, and this whole thing is in the shape of a cross as well.
You're doing a cross all the way down. Father,
Right.
Son, Holy Spirit.
Inception level cross.
Yeah.
Right.
But someone was saying Opsheen is saying, oh, Armin seems like a great friend. Armin is an amazing friend. He's my closest friend.
I don't come across like that when we do live, so
I know that's what's so funny to me is that people think that you're like a jerk, and especially because of like your controversial opinions, or maybe the way you are provocative or something, but like they don't see you talking to me for an hour when I'm having panic attacks and stuff like that. Like, you're amazing. So yeah,
thank you.
He's a good person, you guys. He's a really good person.
I like it.
I mean, he does piss me off more than anyone in my life. But the same reasons why he pisses me off is the same reasons why I'm here. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this was really good. Thanks everyone for joining us in the live chat. Like, let us know if you would like to see more questions. We were thinking about doing kind of like a little mini sex education series, like maybe bringing on some experts. Because we had so many reactions for Sexy Callie, even from major people in the atheist community being very sex negative and seeing it as an extremely negative thing.
Right.
But we're trying to promote sex positivity. There's nothing wrong with sexual women.
We should invite, the first guest that we should invite is Dr. Daryl Ray.
Mm-hmm.
I met this guy multiple times. He's awesome. He
seems like a sweetheart.
Yeah, I stayed at his house.
Dang.
He's
let them know, humble brag, okay?
Wait, let me do more of a brag.
Aw, thank you for all your great work. You do good work.
Thank you, Daryl.
But I need to stop simping for you.
I like that. All right, let's end this.
What also helped me? Oh shoot! Wait. Okay.
What?
Teaser for next time is I should tell the story of how my friends who are sex workers helped me. I should tell the story of my first time going to a strip club.
Oof.
That would be a really good story. Because that was fun. Going to the strip club made me learn a lot of things about.
Don't tell. No,
okay,
next time. Don't tell them. And also the what you discovered about yourself in that biblical illustration had the Bible that made you discover a side of you that you never knew was there. Okay.
If anyone, all these religious zealots who are mad at me, calling me a pervert for Sexuality, especially the Hindutva. The Muslims are coming after me for licking the Quran, calling me a pervert. If you want to blame anything, I want you to direct the direct that to the Catholic Church. I blame the Catholic Church. Wait, I have this book written by written by an atheist ex-priest called The Catholic Church and the Sex Problem.
We should invite that guy.
No, he's dead. This was written in the 40s.
Oh, what? Okay, never mind. Wow, in the 40s? That takes some balls to write that in the 40s.
Yeah. I think it was, originally published in 1949, The Catholic Church and the Sex Problem, The Stupidity, Futility, and Insolence of Its Ethic by Joseph McCabe. He was one of the youngest priests in his seminary, and then he left and became an atheist public speaker in the 40s.
Right. Okay. We could go over that one day.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, we should end this here. We already went over about an hour. Guys,
it was good. It was juicy. It was worth it. It was worth it, wasn't it, guys?
It was worth it. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Isn't it great? We just have conversations that we would have had without, like our work requires having fun conversations. Isn't that amazing?
This is nowhere near the conversations we have off camera. Okay. All right. My god! Like,
all right.
Like after hours, guys.
All right, guys. I'm gonna end the stream before Susanna tells anything more. Okay, bye, guys.
No.
Bye. Bye.